Welcome back to another episode of the Office Podcast with your host with the most, Jay Kuza. No brr.
No brr.
You're trying to be like Anuel?
Yeah.
We had a little moment.
We did like a little reel prior with that.
There we go.
And Nicole, and today we have with us from Better Earth, Zain, which I'm really excited to hear your story because I see you talk about a lot of things that nowadays young kids do not understand what cold calling is and really having to work. So sometimes I hear you, I've seen your live, and I'm like, yes. So I love it. So I'm really excited to have you here.
I appreciate it. I'm super excited to be here.
Nicole does her homework, so she knows. She follows you. And
I love it.
She's on top of it.
I am.
love it.
Well, you know, from a sales point of view, you know, you're saying things that I don't think most kids nowadays are like, I'm not going to get a job. I'm not going to go do that. And this guy's like, I had to make 300. I'm like, hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello.
No, I mean, I think in life is sales at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
And everything we do. And a lot of people, when they look at sales, they think of it as, oh, you're deceiving someone. It's this, you know, used car salesman mentality that people just connect to sales. But what they don't realize is everything you do in your life is a sale at the end of the day. If you want the girl or the guy of your dreams, you're essentially selling them on spending the rest of their life with you. That's a sale. If you want to go out there and you want your friends to come to the club with you, you're selling your friends on the night being good enough so that they should leave today, their Netflix and chill and come and go outside with you. So early on, I realized everything in my life was a sale. And ever since I was a little kid, I wasn't cognizant that I was selling, but I was always selling people on something. Whether it was a new sport, whether it was a new video game, it was a new thing going on, it was riding our bike to the mall. Like, I was always selling a group of people on going and doing something. So that's when I knew, like, I have a skill set. I just don't know what it is.
What was your first job?
I mean, I've done a lot of my first unofficial job was drug dealing. My first official job was
But
working.
you never went to jail or anything for it?
No, never.
We've had a couple of those entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I feel like everyone's had a little scale and some little bags at some point in their life. Maybe not you. Yeah.
No.
Every young male, I feel. No. Anyway, so my first official job was working in a motel cleaning stuff. So that was my first official job.
How old are you there?
14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was under the table, paid cash, stuff like that. My next job was working in a lobster pound, which I fucking hated. This was like the job I hated the most. And I'd have to go in.
That's a restaurant?
Yeah, I paid like $6. I was paid like $6 an hour and I was in the back. And I was just grabbing lobsters, clipping them, whatnot. I was frying stuff in the back. It just absolutely sucked.
How long were you there?
4 months. I got fired from every job I had.
What?
Yeah, I got fired from every job I had because I hated it so much and I didn't want to put in the work. It wasn't because I wasn't hungry. It was because I didn't agree with what I was doing and I didn't
love
think
what you did.
And I wasn't, it's not even about loving what you do because I feel like at the end of the day, so many people use that as an excuse to not make money or not be successful. My response to people always is you don't have to love what you do at the end of the day. You're going to go through a lot of shit. And no matter how much you love something, it's always going to be hard. And there's days that you're going to hate it. Everyone looks at me and they're like, oh, you love solar and it's your thing and you're so excited. Sure. But what they don't see is that every single day I'm walking on like a landmine and shit's about to blow up. I tell people when I get 100 phone calls, about 99 of those phone calls are, hey, Zain, I have this problem, or Zain, this thing's going on. 1 out of 100 phone calls is like, hey, Zain, how's it going today? What's new? How you doing? No, I don't get that. I always get shit that's going on, but that's a part of life and success is chaos. Like, you have to be able to manage the chaos. Actually, I did a talk this morning, and the group of people, it was a lot of young sales leaders, and they were asking me like, Zain, how do you handle pressure? And I told them very simply, it's just like running a mile. If I want to go and I want to run a marathon, if I run 1 mile, I might be good at that 1 mile. It doesn't mean that I can go and run a full marathon. But if I want to get good at running a marathon, what do I have to do? I have to train every day. And incrementally, I'm going to go from 1 mile to 2 to 4 to 5 to 10 to 20, right? Well, in stress and pressure in business, it's the same exact way. If I go through 1,000 issues and problems, eventually I'm going to get so good at handling problems that my base level of just standard pressure is so high, it's someone's worst day or it's someone's hardest day. For me, it's my living moment. I'm used to pressure and stress. In fact, I believe the most crippling thing for young people, especially, is boredom. All of my problems in my life have come when I was bored. It's when I had too much time on my hand. It's when I had nothing to do. Because that's when your mind starts to get creative and that like mischievous menace of a kid starts to come out. Because as a kid in school, I always failed my classes. I always got in trouble. I always got kicked out of.
Where did you grow up?
Outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah, so I grew up in a small town outside of Boston, probably 15, 20 minutes outside of Boston.
And you just didn't do good in school.
Horrible at school. I had a bad environment. I had bad friends. I got fired from all my jobs. Literally, like, I was the perfect picture fuck up my entire life. There was not one good thing about me where someone was like, oh, he's got some potential.
Really?
Yeah, my entire life. And I got almost expelled from school because, you know, I did everything I could. I was hustling. I was stealing stuff. Was getting in fights, arguments with people. Like, I was not an easy kid to deal with. I was actually, I never listened to people. I never had this concept of, oh, boundaries exist. My whole life has been no boundaries. It's my life, my world, and I run it the way I want to. And that in school obviously doesn't work because it's a very structured system. But when I got out of structure and I created my own structure, I realized, wow, I can go from having zero discipline to being the most disciplined person with my own structure. So yeah, to answer your question in short, I mean, my entire life has been chaos, pressure, and stress. I haven't loved what I've done at every point, but I truly believe if you want to one day love what you do and do what you're passionate about, there's only one thing that can drive that higher than any other thing, and that's money. If you have money, you can put that into your passions. You can put that into the things that you believe in. But when you don't have capital and you don't have money, we were just talking about this, but like if I had a trust fund, maybe I would have the ability to sit there one day and just be like, okay, what do I want to do in my life? What am I passionate about? What do I love? But like growing up the way I did, it's always paycheck to paycheck. So if you're not making money, you're not surviving. So you have no ability or luxury to even think about, oh, what do I want to do? What's going to make me happy? No, it's what's going to make me money.
So, okay.
It's a lot.
You get fired. No, you're good. You're good. You get fired.
Yeah.
You're horrendous in school. I'm assuming you're going to cause you've caused your parents a lot of grief at that point.
Yeah, because my dad was just picture perfect, right? Like,
really?
I'm a first generation immigrant. Both of my parents are Islamic, so they're extremely strict. My dad and mom don't drink. They don't smoke. They do zero drugs. They do not tolerate any bullshit. And they're very strict. I'm a complete opposite. I'm a fuck up. I'm drinking at a young age. I'm doing drugs. I'm getting in trouble. Every single day I come from school, one of those pink little slips, or my parents have to go talk to the teacher. Like, I've been through so many of these situations, but my dad was a taxi driver and my mom worked at Marshall's in layaway. So she was working in the back store. So as you can imagine, on both of those jobs, my mom is making practically minimum wage. My dad makes decent money for his job, but he's working all day long. My dad comes back home every day at 4 or 5 a.m. because that's when the clubs shut off and people get dropped off. And that's where his real money starts to pick up. So I never really see my parents throughout my, a big portion of my childhood just because they're working. So I'm naturally taking care of myself. But yeah, my entire life was causing them stress because they were putting in all this work and effort. In their minds, they thought, he's going to go to school. He's going to get a good education. One day he's going to become a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. It's like the typical
immigrant's
dream.
Because the parents got to work and they think the school system here is going to do the rest.
And they're sacrificing their life for yours. Mm-hmm. What they're basically saying is, we came here and we don't have a shot to maybe go and be a doctor and engineer, but why don't we work our way up, save up the pennies, get you through school, and then we've done our job. Like, we've turned you into.
So at what point when you're going through all that, do you ever think you'd be here where you're at right now in your life?
It's an interesting question because I think when you're in it, you never actually know. But to answer your question, I've always had the dream that I was different. I always had a feeling that I was different. I always knew that I was different than everyone else around me. The problem is when you grow up, especially when you're a kid, you do believe a lot of the things that you hear. You're very naive. As you get older, maybe you stop listening to people and you filter in the ideas that you hear. But when you're growing up and your entire life, from your principal to your teacher, to your parents, to your aunts, your uncles, your parents' friends, all of the authoritative figures in your life, the people that are considered your elders, are telling you that you're fucking up and that you're not going to be successful. Of course, they don't have a bad intention,
of course
not, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to straighten out and go in the right direction. But when you hear that your entire life, at some point, you start to believe it. You're like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe everyone that's telling me I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to end up in prison or I'm going to end up just, doing nothing with my life, maybe they're right. But as I got older, I started to listen to this stuff and it really affected me. So the reason I went down the wrong path, because I was like, I got no other choice. Like they're all telling me that the only way to be successful traditionally and legally is to go through the education system. I don't want to go through the modern education system. It's not something I believed in. Even at that point, it's not something I believe in today. But what's my only other option? The only other people I know that make money, or the only other ways I see for people to make money, is selling drugs. So that's kind of what got me in that hustler's mentality. I'm going to do a deal here. I'm going to do a deal there. I'm always going to hustle. But as I got older, I realized that's not what I want in my life. I don't just want to always be hustling for every deal or always looking behind my back. It's just not what I wanted. It wasn't the dream life that I pictured.
Why you stopped hustling?
Yeah, I didn't stop hustling. I stopped hustling deal to deal, right? Like there's two types of hustle in life. There's hustling just to get by and every day, and then there's hustling to build a dream and a vision and something long term. And they're two completely different things. At that point in my life, there was no longevity in what I was doing. Everything was fast money and it was making money quickly. And when you look at that, all the people I look around at in my life that were focused on just fast money, fast money, fast money, they never really got too far because they were always chasing that. For me, I took a step back and I said, I want to make money, but I want it to last forever. I want it to last for generations. And when you look at that and study it, every single person in history that's ever built generational wealth, they've always built something that solves a very big problem. They've never ever done something that is just selfish or for them. There's always a massive problem that's being solved, or even if it's not like a problem, even if it's a negative thing, even if it's like being one of the largest tobacco companies or alcohol brands in the world, at the end of the day, we might glorify them in size, but they're killing people, right? Like we might not believe that, or we might not want to believe it, or we look at this, it's like cool, but we all know at the end of the day,
it's a vice.
You're not saving someone's life. You're just supplying something that people are participating in anyway. It's like going to a casino. How many people kill themselves because of how much money they lose every single year? How many people get depressed and stressed? It's not like we stop casinos. It's not like we push that away. So there's two types of ways to do it. Number one is attack a problem that you're actually making the world better. Or on the other side, provide a supply and demand type situation where if someone wants to drink, they can drink, or they want to go to the casino, they can do it. It's just, what do you want to do? So, I never chose that.
So when you went through all that, what makes you say solar? Like, how'd you get started?
Yeah, zero intention to be in the solar industry, zero intention to solve any type of renewable energy problem. It was pure money at that point. So I was fast forward, my mom had a stroke when I was 16 years old. She had a brain aneurysm, a hemorrhage in her brain, a blood clot. And she literally one day, like at work, like fell to the ground. And she was airlifted to Mass General Hospital, which is one of the big hospitals, major ones in Boston, best neurosurgeons in the world. She had a 5% chance of survival. And then as my mom got old, or as she went through her process of recovery, she was probably in a coma. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was definitely 6 months to a year. And then we were talking about another 1 to 2 years of recovery. And that type of major stroke, you're technically always recovering in your life just because it's such a big impact to you. There's no way you walk away 100% from that. So when that happened, that was a very pivotal point in my life because I'm a young adult at that point. I'm 16, 17, 18 years old. You're in probably one of the most interesting times of your life because you're extremely insecure because you're in school, you're looking around, you're seeing what everyone else is going to do. You start hearing like, oh, I'm going to go be a plumber. I'm going to go be a police officer. I'm going to go to college. Like you start hearing people figuring out their life in different paths. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I have no luxury of my parents saving my ass. I have no luxury of like just staying in the home and, you know, riding off of them. I have to go and I have to figure this out. And on top of all of this, now my mom's not capable anymore in here fully. She's not working and she's half of our income because again, every penny and every dollar matters in that situation. So now I have to go and I have to fend for myself and I have to figure it out. However, when my mom did come back to consciousness, her dream was for me to go to college always. And I knew that. And I knew she was going to ask me like, hey, did you get into school? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, let me get in somewhere. So I wrote a college essay. I still remember until this day. And I was very honest in that message. I basically wrote, I've sold drugs. I've done the wrong things. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done bad in school. I've been kicked out. I've almost been expelled from school. I've almost been expelled from school. However, I had this thing happen with my mom and it's opened up my eyes and I think I deserve another chance. And I somehow got into a school with a 2.0 GPA. The school's average was a 3.5. So I somehow got in.
Sold your way in?
I sold my way in, literally.
He sold himself.
Yeah. So I got in, and then I got back to the same bullshit there, right? Like selling drugs, promoting clubs and whatnot, doing some rentals and real estate.
You promoting clubs and drugs? God, I see him in such a different light.
No, but I was 18. I was a completely different kid. I looked different. Everything about me was different. My mannerisms, my vocab, everything. You adapt as you grow and evolve. I did that. And do you have water, by the way?
Yes.
I just don't want to cough 100 times.
Yeah, no, you're good. That's interesting.
I wanted to evolve and I wanted to grow. It was very different in college. So anyways, I'm in college doing this whole thing. And then I remember going to classes and I'm like, I ain't going to finish this.
Really?
I'm just not. Like, this is not for me. This is not who I am. I don't believe in this. I actually got in an argument one day with one of my business professors. And in front of an entire auditorium class, I asked him, you're teaching us about economics. How's your economic situation personally? And he got so upset and like was arguing with me in front of a whole auditorium. Then I asked him, how much money have you made in your life? And he got so like, it was a very big situation in school that I was questioning a professor like this. So that was a moment when I realized like, this isn't for me.
Why do you think he got upset? Why if that's the point of college, they're supposed to help you get ahead in life, and that's a very
because he had no tangible thing.
Exactly.
He had no tangible thing, right? He's an economics professor with no business.
So how does that work?
That's the whole point, right? It's like a degree. It's like, oh, I can be your tennis coach because I've studied the game of tennis. But at the end of the day, if I've never played the game of tennis, how am I going to be your tennis coach? Right. It'd be very weird to listen to you if you had no real life experience with it. Yeah.
Tournament.
Sure. Like if Bill Gates or, Elon or someone's my professor in college, obviously I'm going to listen because I'm like, okay, he's actually done something. But most of these professors haven't done jack shit. Maybe you go to like an Ivy League school and there's a little more of that. But where I was, there was none of that. So I actually got a call from a buddy one day and he was like, Zane, I really want to work with you. I made $20,000 and I want to show you how I did it in a single month.
And you were like, I'm all ears.
I was like, yeah, literally, I always tell people it's so funny. Wolf of Wall Street came out after that point, but Wolf of Wall Street, that scene where he's going up to him and he's like, show me a pay stub and I'll quit my job right now. That was literally me. I was like, dude, I will put everything aside if I can figure out how to make 20 grand. Just show me a check. And he showed me a check and a deposit. And I was like, okay, this is legit. This is real. I want to actually go and look into this. He goes, it's door to door. I go, how can you make a lot of money going door to door? That's like a scrappy thing.
I have the same question.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right. I'm used to when I see money, I'm thinking suits and offices and conference rooms and telephones. Right. I'm not thinking some guy wearing jeans and a pullover knocking a door with an iPad making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And he goes, yeah, that's the way it works. He described to me the whole system. He was like, listen, we go to a homeowner. Right now, they're buying their power at a current rate. All we're doing is we're going to them and we're saying, we're going to charge you less for power than you're paying now. You're not going to pay us a single dollar up front, and we're going to give you a solar system. And I looked at that and I was like, that sounds too good to be true, but
the government pays the company.
Well, how it works is it's all financed by a bank. So at the end of the day, a homeowner is financing it. The thing is, the monthly payment that they're making every month is less than what they're paying FPL or Duke or one of their utility companies.
Wow.
So every month that they make that payment, they're avoiding their utility bill, right? Their utility bill.
Completely?
It depends in every situation, but usually completely, most of our systems are 100%. What they're paying is a connection fee, which is like $5 or $10 or something.
So somebody that has a $500 electric bill is paying what now?
So their utility bill is probably going to whatever, 10 or 20 bucks a month just for
from 500
from their utility bill. Our solar bill is maybe going from 500 to 380 or 400. So 20%. Net, I'm saving $100 to $120. In some situations, up to 50%, 60%. I'm not going to say that because that's not average, right. But that's kind of what it is. But the key difference is that bill never changes. So that's locked in for the next 25 years because it's just a fixed monthly payment. Whereas your utility company goes up every single year. I always ask people, show me your utility bill from 4 years ago. And they'll be like, wow, my $500 utility bill used to be $290. Holy crap. So now what we're doing is you're owning your asset, right? And the easiest pitch in the world to a homeowner is this. Why did you decide to stop renting your power or your home? And why did you decide to buy a home? Because oftentimes our customer is not a renter, it's an owner of a home. And what do they say every single time? Like if you were to ask, any one of your parents or someone around you, why did you buy a home? What do you think their response would be? Why?
To own it.
To own it, right? I want to build equity in my home. I want to have independence. I want it to be mine, right? I don't want to keep paying someone else's mortgage. So we always flip the question on them. Well, why do you rent your power? Because that's all you're doing right now. You're just renting your power every single month. That's the salesman in them.
That was good.
You have zero control over your bill, and it can go up every single year, much more than your rent would ever go up. When you pay your solar payment every month, what are you doing? You're just building equity back in your home. You actually own that asset. So when you go to sell your home, what's going to happen? When someone wants to move in, they're going to see that you actually will not have a utility bill when you move into that house. So if I have home A and B, one is $500,000 and the other is $530,000. $30,000 more being for the solar system, let's call it. Okay, what home am I going to pick? 530 or 500? If in 530, I know I have a $0 utility bill, but in 500, I know that every month I'm paying $300, $400, $500.
Because once they pay the utility, that's like a 20, 25 year.
So when you get your solar system, it's a 25-year loan. However, when you go to sell your home, a lot of times what people are doing is they're just paying off the system and wrapping it into the cost of the house. So
they have a free system.
So you essentially have a free system and you're selling a system and the person moving in has no bill.
Nicole's going to be getting a system now.
Yeah.
With the rate that you first got the solar in. So if you got it in 2010, I'm paying 2010 rates versus 2023.
Well, it's just like anything, right? If I buy a house under contract for $500,000, that's mine locked in right now. So I'm buying a solar system at, let's say $30,000, but over 25 years, I'm locked in at that. Even though the utility rate literally will go up every single year. In the last 100 years, there's not been a single year where a U.S. utility has gone down in price. They have always increased their rates. It's very easy to think about. Think about, your car.
Oh, you sold me already. Yeah, I'm good.
Well, I'm going to ask you a quick question. What did you pay for gas in the year 2005? I don't know if you drove in 2005, but what did you pay in 2005?
Kind of you. Probably like $1, under $1.10.
Okay, imagine if in 2005 I told you can lock in your gas price at 25 years.
Amazing.
It's a
no-brainer.
But it's the same way with your utilities. It's the same way that fluctuates.
So that sounds amazing, but all three of us know sales really good. And all three of us really understand what it is to knock on some doors.
Yeah.
What is your turnover rate for your staff?
Now our business is a lot different. So we're a residential installation company. So my progression was I worked at a door-to-door company. I then became a door-to-door leader and manager. I then became a chief revenue officer at a company running an entire sales force and all the revenue, sales, and marketing. And then I went to I got around with all the people that I had spent, the last 4, 5, 6 years with in the industry that I knew were killers. And I said, do you want to partner and work with me and build the best solar company ever? And that's where Better Earth was started. Today, it's very different. We have tons of employees all over, W-2 salaried. We have offices in different states all throughout California. We have 5 offices. We have Arizona offices, Texas, Florida, opening up Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire in the next 60 days. So we have offices all over, staff, in-person employees, but that's just like the operation side of the business. I think at our peak, it's been like 600 or 700 employees. So it's a lot of W-2 people focused on the operation. Then you have your whole other side of the business, which is sales. Sales guys are not W-2. So we have some W-2 sales guys that are like inside sales, but most of our sales come from contractors. So these are 1099s that are all over the country. And every year there's 2,000 or 3,000 that on board with us. So
how many of that stay?
It's just like real estate. How many real estate agents are there? I think there's like 1.5 or 2 million in the US, except 85 or 90% of the sales come from the top 10%. So you just look at that and you're like, solar's the same way. It's maybe not that extreme, but I would say out of every person that walks in, one person stays. Like out of 2 people, one person will stay. And the person that stays, I would say 50% of those people will stay longer than a year. And then anyone that stays longer than a year, in my opinion, is probably in it for the rest of their life because they figure it out and they realize this is insane. Yeah. And, we have so many young people. I probably have 3 or 4 people that are under the age of 25 that have made, multi-million dollars every year. So you get people that make a lot of money and people are like, how is that possible? Well, it's very simple. All we're doing is we're going around and we have our customers who have a problem that's a high utility bill that they can't control. We're giving them a cheaper alternative solution where they actually own their power energy independence. And then the biggest thing, which I don't know where you were born. What country?
I was born and raised here.
You were born and raised here.
Miami.
What about you, Jay?
I was born in New York.
You're born in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you're both from here. Then your parents weren't born here, right?
No.
Imagine. Where were your parents born?
Cuban.
What about you?
Cuban Colombian.
Okay, cool. So let's go to Cuba, or let's go to.
I saw that you posted that. I loved it. I reposted
Colombia.
that because of that.
Yeah.
Cuba or Colombia?
I went to
Cuba.
Colombia, but
Okay.
yeah, no. If you go to Cuba or Colombia, right? How is power there? Like electricity.
Horrible.
Yeah, and they
They
shut
do-
it
they
off.
shut
on
it
And they
down.
always shut it
people.
off, right? So government has control of power.
Mhm.
And technically it's a very corrupt system we know in these countries. And I'm not isolating those two countries. It happens all over the world. Yeah, it happens in so many different countries. Well, if I'm a government and I want to control my people, I obviously want to control their resources, like their power and their water. Why? Because these are the most essential things in their life. So I can control their decisions. Now, I never thought that this would happen in the United States, but it actually did happen at one point in the United States recently. I lived in Los Angeles, and where Eric Garcetti said specifically during the flu season, he said, if you have social gatherings in your home, we will turn off your electricity. We partner with utility companies. If you have any social gatherings in your home, we will turn off.
And there is where I kind of thought, whoa.
She lived in Cali.
Yeah.
I lived in Cali too, right? So I'm like, whoa, like this is insane. Am I scared it's going to happen to me? No, but I'm thinking about it. And I'm like,
But if they wanted to, they could.
They could, and they're telling me that they can.
They will.
That they will, and if I don't listen
comply.
to them, and in my own home that I own, that's mine, that I pay for every single year, I can't have people in my home. You're telling me that thing, whether you believe in it or not. You're telling me this. I don't like that. I didn't grow up in America. I didn't see my parents bust their ass to just have someone tell me what I do. Well, the cool part about solar is it's the one time where you actually own your power. So technically, if you have your own solar system, and we also sell batteries. So if you have battery backup, you no longer need to rely on them. And that's the scariest thing at all. You're still connected to them in the way of, if for some reason you need to pull power from the grid, which happens, especially when people don't have batteries, you can still pull for them. But technically, it's completely your solar system, and it's your battery technology. It's yours, and it's your asset that you completely own. So your home is now your own mini utility, and you can completely rely off the solar system and the battery. It's not like you got to sit there and hope you can rely. No, if we design you the right system, which we always do, you're going to be able to live off of that. So why do people suppress and push back on things like that? Well, just think about it. If I own the utility companies, why would I want someone else to be fully in control of their power? I wouldn't want that. Why? Because they can make their own decisions. I can't make that decision for them anymore. When we ask our homeowners when they move into their house, we always ask them one question. We say, when did you decide to go with FPL, let's say, for example?
Oh.
And they always respond with like, I didn't.
Yeah.
I was forced. Have you ever called FPL to set up a new account? It's never like, hi, how you doing, Jay? Hopefully you're having a great day.
Yeah.
It's like
Horrible.
account number,
Yeah.
great,
Horrible.
social, awesome, set up. Like, that's it, right? It's you have no power, no control. Why? Because this is a real term. It's called a natural monopoly. It's a controlled natural monopoly. There's, 4 or 5 main utility companies across the United States that control most of the power. If you look in California, it's one public utility commission that controls it for most of the state, which the state is one of the, biggest economies in the world. So when you look at power in that way and you start thinking of it, forget about the savings and all of the other things. Just think about energy independence and owning your own power. People are scared of that. People are scared for people to own their own brands. Look at celebrities, movie stars, and athletes now. Why are all of these massive studios scared of them? Because for the first time ever with social media, we've decentralized their influence and their power. So now an independent artist can actually go and be seen and be known. Back in the day, your only way to be seen and be known was going through the whole
channels.
system. And if you didn't go through their system, you couldn't do it. And that's what I think is so beautiful about the solar industry is if we can do that across the world, that's crazy. The last thing I'll say on that, because I don't want this to turn into a solar fest.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it because you're teaching me a lot. So
I do podcasts all over, from we never talk about solar to we talk all about it. But I'll tell you why I'm so passionate about it. If we look at how we get our Wi-Fi, for example, right? We're not connected to an Ethernet cord. We don't have a cord connected to our phone. It's just, it's wirelessly done. We look at Bluetooth and the amazing stuff with Bluetooth technology. I don't have to plug in a CD. I can take music from one device and put it to this device and I can hear it on a speaker. Telephones. I no longer need landlines. I no longer need the wires connected into my wall. Now I can just wirelessly go anywhere. If you ever go to a third world country, they might not have water, they might not have food, but usually you see a smartphone. It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
You'll see like homeless people on the side of the street begging, wanting water, but they got a smartphone in their hand, right? Why? Because at one point, it didn't make sense for a lot of these countries to invest in going and building landlines in these systems to have telecommunication. So that's why they didn't have phones. But as soon as smartphones came, what happened? Became portable. People have their own access. So now I don't need to rely on my government. I can just go and I can get access off of this network with my phone. Well, how is power done across the entire world? A lot of people usually, they know this, but it's very overlooked. It's done one of two ways. Number one, it's above ground. Number two, it's underground. Either you drive on the street and you see those big poles and those wires everywhere, or they're underground and the same exact thing is happening. Meaning if you're getting your power at your home, you are connected to a grid. Legitimately by poles and wires, you are connected to the grid. And that's how their electricity is coming to you. It's literally, we make electricity and we send it to you through wires. That's how that's how it's done. And that blows my mind because we've had all of this improvement in technology, yet we haven't improved this one area of technology. Why?
Yeah, why?
There's been zero disruption there. Solar has been around for a very long time. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
The technology, I mean, even batteries, look at Nikola Tesla, like this technology was there. We always ignored what the technology was. Why? Because we have a system set up and it's not deregulated and people don't have control over their power. So why would we push this other agenda and make this more appealing? No, let's keep pushing our own stuff. Well, if you go across the world, it's the same exact thing. You think their government's going to invest in this massive pole and wired, multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar infrastructure for an entire country? No. They're not going to invest in that, nor do they want to invest in that. But what if we bring you a solar system to your remote island? Well, we can do that. We've done that, right? So
do some of these countries want it?
Of course. Well, the country doesn't maybe want it. The people want it. And this is happening all across the world. That's why solar adoption is jumping through the roof, because we can actually go to a place and make change pretty, it's expensive, but relative to what it would be to set them up with a grid infrastructure, it's pennies, right? We're maybe paying, $40,000 or $50,000 to power up an entire village.
But legality wise, does the government allow you to? Is it easy?
Well, that's the best part. It's decentralized, so no one can stop you technically.
I love Fitbit pre-workout. Doesn't give me the jitters, gets me going for my workout, and keeps me going all the way to the end. I definitely recommend it.
Reach for bip bip.
So if right now I said I want you to go to Cuba and I want you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Am I going to get?
When
I'm
you
going to
get over
get
there,
the
it'll be a
equipment and the
problem.
materials in and stuff like that, right? I have to try to get around stuff like that, but as long as I have materials and equipment, like I don't need to tell the government about installing my solar. It's like
Really?
it's like sure, there's local legislations and permits and things like that everywhere, right? Especially in the United States. But at the end of the day, technically, you can't stop me from doing it.
Really?
Yeah. How could you?
See, I thought it was a lot of government red
But just
tape,
think about it.
It's
It's an individualized
no.
program. It's
Amazing.
your own power. It's your own system. You're just buying something. It's like the government telling you you can't buy a car. I'm sorry.
So how does the guy that goes from being a menace,
Actually, still
with all the
am.
respect, I believe it. I'm starting to believe it.
Yeah.
Get to this point. Like mentally, I want you to tell me mentally how you got to that.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, it's just like I don't believe in giving up or quitting or failing. I've never believed in it. It's never been real for me. I always tell people maybe I'm a psychopath in some way, but problems like they happen in my life, but I don't let them bother me or affect me. I just continue to keep going. I wish I had a more tactical answer or formula where someone would watch it and they would be like, "Oh my God, he said the magic thing," or "He said the magic line."
No, but the magic thing is that don't give up.
Don't give up. And I actually think, honestly, there's a war on planet Earth with this. And what I mean by that is so many people are told that it's okay to give up. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable. How many times do we hear these messages where they're telling people like, you are depressed. You have a mental health issue. You need to go and get prescribed. You need to go to the doctor. And people start getting super into this. And growing up, I was actually really lucky. The only reason I'm not on Adderall.
Your parents?
Is my parents.
Of
Why?
course.
Because
There's
I got they told me I need to be prescribed it in school, and my parents opted out due to religious reasons. That's exactly what they said.
Right.
That's why I didn't need to take it. Right. So when I look at that now and I look back, I had some friends that grew up and their parents didn't stop that, and they did that, and now you see them and they're like spazzes and they're all over the place, and you're like, dude, that sucks. And then they'll tell you themselves, like, I hate this. Like, I'm pissed that I got into this situation. Right. But this gets pushed down just like candy. Like people are like, you have problems. You need to go see someone. You need to go talk to someone. What does that someone usually do? Very, very rarely does that someone just say, oh, you need to do this activity. No, here's a pill. It's going to solve all of your problems. Just take it and now become reliant on this thing. This is one other thing that now someone is making money on because you are reliant on it. Right? It's why you see this with vapes and nicotine and all this stuff. People are so reliant on it. You walk into a club and you see people on a vape and they're just like, they're like feeding on this vape, right? Well, what is that? That's an addiction, right? It's just people like want it. So if you create a business where people, feel like they always need it and they want it, now they're reliant on you. Now you can make money. I no longer have to go and sell my customer every day. Like for me, I got to sell my customer every day. Something as a vape, I don't need to sell my customer. Like as long as they try it once, my guy's going to be hooked and they're going to keep on doing it. So when I look at that, I think there's a war against people's minds, and they want to stop people. They really do. Like
why though? Why do you think they want to stop people?
Because if you look at a society of people and they can think for themselves and they are emotionally in control, that is extremely dangerous. Why? Because a group of emotionally stable and people that are in control with, skill sets and tactics, they can take down anything. I mean, just look at it. You put together a group of 5,000 people that are emotionally in control, stable, and have, the right mentality and mindset, they can change the world. All it takes is a small group of people starting, and that's going to evolve into something bigger. So how do we stop that? Well, we stop the progression of that. We stop people from growing. We tell people, oh, if you feel a little bit down, go out there and talk to a therapist and talk to your person, and it's okay to be this way, and mental health is a problem. And we shove this down your throat. So now if I'm a young adult and I'm going through my life and I'm going through my situations and some adversity comes up, now every day on Instagram I'm seeing, oh, mental health is happening and people are struggling with depression. And I go and I look at my phone and I'm like, you know what? Like I'm feeling a little down today. Like, damn, like stuff's not going my way. I must be depressed. Instantly, I'm going to go there. Why? Because people tell me that that's exactly what I have. More people are diagnosed of depression by themselves than doctors, right?
And less people work out.
Correct.
Isn't that the insane part?
It's so insane. I remember seeing a stat where it was like, you could smoke cigarettes every day, you could drink every day, but you could work out, and you will outlive someone who doesn't smoke and doesn't drink but doesn't work out. So it's absolutely insane. So you look at that, people, if you tell someone, oh, go and work out and be obsessed with your health and be obsessed with your mentality and read books and become successful, you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. How could you be telling people to do that? You're this, you're that. But then you go and tell someone, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have problems. You're depressed. Oh my God, let's clap it up for that person.
Have you always kept that pressure on yourself?
Always. And I welcome it. I feel weird when I don't have pressure. Genuinely, it goes back to what I was saying. The biggest enemy of the man is boredom, right? Just look at it. Like when people are bored, what do? They do stupid shit. Every time you or myself or you have done something dumb, I guarantee you we were bored and we had enough time in our life. Right? When we don't have time, you don't even have time to think of all the bullshit. No, why? Don't. Because you wake up and you're like, dude, I got so much shit coming at me. I don't care about your shit. I don't care about what's going on over there. I don't care about partying. I gotta go get it. I just have to go and I have to focus, right? But I welcome it because all of my success has always come after a severe amount of adversity. So now I know whenever I'm going through problems and adversity, that I know there's always success on the other side and I have to keep going. And that's my formula in my mind. I'm like, problems. There's going to be a solution. A lot of people, they have problems and they don't look for a solution. They don't look for the next level. They're not looking for, oh, how do I solve this? No, they're looking for, oh, how can I have someone sit here and listen to me and just tell me that I have problems and I'm weak and maybe I'm going to get prescribed something. I'm going to feel a little better about myself, or, oh, I'm overworked. You know, I have no balance in my life. The reason I'm stressed is because I haven't taken a vacation. Okay, let me stop doing an activity that I need to do to make money and let me now go on vacation. Listen, growing up, like, we don't have that bullshit. You go to somewhere in the middle of nowhere, right? Go to some third world country, or go to any country and go to the middle of nowhere. Go to where you have people that are extremely traditional. They live off of the farm and that's their life. And tell them like, oh, I'm super depressed. Like all my friends don't like me and I don't like the way I look. They're going to be like, get the fuck out of here. What the fuck? I got to go kill my next fucking meal. Right? And that's how people are. I went to Colombia and we were doing like a philanthropy trip with my company. And we were there, and I remember we asked these kids are like extremely poor. They are poor to the point where they literally have one shoe on one leg. And you ask them, why are you only wearing one shoe? They're like, oh, because we share it. Like that's how sacred having a shoe is. I put it on this leg and my brother puts it on that leg. And that's how we do it. So I asked them a question. I was like, listen, like this is rough for these guys. I'm looking, they don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have clean water. They don't have consistent electricity. You know, sometimes they go 3 or 4 months without power. So they have nothing. And every time they need a meal, what do they have to do? They have to go fish. They have to go kill something. And that's how they're going to eat. So I asked them, like, do you ever want to come to the United States? Like, I know that's probably your dream. What do you think about that? And they looked at me and they were like, no, I don't want to come to the United States. And I'm sitting there shocked with the translator. I'm like, ask them why. Like, why do you not want to come? And they're like, we're happy here. But also we heard that people kill themselves in the United States. Mm-hmm. And they were so shocked that suicide is even a thing, that someone contemplates taking their life.
You talk to Cubans and you tell them, like, in the island, you're like, oh, you know, this person has this disease, my kid, the doctor's telling me what they're like, yeah, that's a rich person's disease. They're like, you need to grab your shoe and beat your kid, and you're like,
yeah, and get to work. And again, I grew up like that, so I always thought it was normal, but you look around and people are so soft. It's absolutely insane.
But don't you think that sometimes people don't have the same, and I'm not being devil's advocate, I just want to know your take on it. Do you think that some people have the same tools? No,
for sure. There's some people
think about the kids that have been raised with mother and father having that same mentality, and they think, you know, it's like when you're poor, you don't know you're poor until you get out there, and then you're like, this person's got more than me. Wait.
Yeah.
Right? So do you think there's a lot of that?
I actually believe adversity is the best tool I ever had. So when I look back at my life, I'm just like, adversity was the number one tool I had. That's the reason I am who I am. That's the reason I can operate in these situations, because I just go back to where I was and it's like, boom, that snaps me right back into place. Whenever I get off of track or off of focus, or I'm feeling a little down, I'm just looking back. I'm like, dude, look at how much I've accomplished in life. Look at how hard my life is.
So you do have moments that you're like, you know what, I don't feel right, but then you look back and you're like,
everyone does. Yeah, I'm not acknowledging that I never feel down. I just don't call it depression. I call it life. You know what I mean?
Right. No, it's good to know.
It's of course. Do I wake up some days and I'm like, fuck, like this sucks, this is hard? Of course. I'm not like Iron Man by any means, but like that's just normal for me. That's like, I accept it as a part of life. It's just another thing that happens. I'm not emotional about it. I'm not giving it attention. A lot of people, when they have a problem, they give it attention. I only give attention to solutions, right? Like that's what the focus is. But to answer your question, life is not about where you are, where you start, in my opinion. I could start worse off than I did, because there's a lot of people in the world that started off worse off than I did, and there's a lot of people in the world that started off much better off than I did. Life is about taking the things that are in front of you and making something of that. People always ask me, like, why do you respect Donald Trump and his story of success? His father gave him money. His father built a real estate empire and a legacy. Well, I go to, did he actually? Let's look into that story. Okay, his dad did give him $1 million loan. That's a very fair thing, right? But for someone that's never made $1 million before, that sounds insane and it sounds crazy and it sounds like a lot of money. But someone that's had $1 million before, you also realize, wait, so he took that loan and then he actually built a multi-billion-dollar empire. Do you know how many people touch $1 million that will never ever touch 5 million? So majority of the people that touch $1 million will never ever even touch 5 million, let alone $1 billion. So to me, when people ask me like, is that impressive? I'm like, that's just as impressive to me as someone who grew up with $0 becoming a multimillionaire, going from $1 million to $1 billion. So I don't judge it based off of your starting point. I judge it based off of how much distance did you travel in that time and did you use your resources successfully? Because I know a lot of people that grew up far more advantaged than me, but now they're in a much worse situation.
Why is that though?
Because they didn't use the tools to their advantage. Again, I can be rich and I can be watching the same Instagram post and being like, I'm depressed, I'm sad, and I'm going to look at everything in front of my life. And I might have all of the skill sets and tools and resources to become ultra successful. My dad might literally have an unlimited blank check for me to go and start the business of my dreams, but I don't see it. Why? Because I'm blinded by my problems. And now I focus on my problems. Instead of giving attention to solutions, I give attention to problems and my life goes back the other way.
So a 25-year-old that's sitting there on the gram, 25, 45, whatever age, they're sitting on the gram. They are sad.
Yeah.
They do feel they're depressed. You feel it's boredom. You're like, go do something.
Yeah, you're bored. That's it. You have too much time. If you even have the time to feel it, you're bored. That's it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I'm super busy, I'm not thinking about how I'm feeling. I'm not thinking about, oh, I'm sad today, or, you know, what does this person think about me, or how do I look? It's like, no, I have shit to do. I have problems I have to solve that are far greater than this. And I think once you get enough experience and life perspective and you see other people's situations and how bad people have really had it, every day I just wake up and I'm like, I'm not the guy that got both of his legs blown off and now I'm sitting in a wheelchair. I met a kid probably like a month ago or so, and he came to my house. He was actually for a podcast, really, really nice kid. And he came with a wheelchair, and I had no idea why he was in a wheelchair. I actually didn't even ask him. I was like, you know, I got a podcast, I'm busy. And then after, someone told me his story, and they were like, oh yeah, like a few years ago, this kid was completely fine, healthy, and he did MMA. He was doing jiu-jitsu, and he got slammed in jiu-jitsu, and his entire like neck down became paralyzed. So now he's fully paralyzed for life, sitting in a wheelchair, smiling, happy, great kid, still loves fighting, still loves mixed martial arts. He's like, it's amazing. He watches it. He goes to the gym. Like, he's really into it. And I'm like, what a fucking champion. Like, this kid's pumped. He's smiling. He's happy. He's making the best out of his situation. And you have 2 fucking legs, 2 capable arms. You have a fucking brain, and you're sitting here bitching and complaining. Every one of you could be in that situation. So stop sitting there thinking like, oh my God, I feel bad. It's like, no, get off your ass, get to work, and be useful.
Do the people you surround yourself with feel the same, think the same?
Not everyone, for sure, but constantly I'm auditing the people around me.
Ooh, I like
always.
that one.
Yeah, always.
Auditing.
Yeah, auditing people around me. I was always checking people like, why are you saying this? Why are you being negative? Why are you being such a, loser? Like, I tell this to people around me. You can ask people who are around me every single day.
When you say people, are you talking about people that work for you?
Everyone, anyone in my environment. I could meet you the first time ever, or I could have known you for 20 years. I will always tell you how I feel, and I will feel if I feel like someone is a negative person around me, or they're bringing me down, or I don't like the things that they're talking about, I'm either never going to see you again, or I will let you know, and you're going to have to improve it. That's the only way you're going to be around me. So I'm very ruthless about that. I'm very, like, even the little words, like if someone ever asked me and they're with me and they're like, Zain, is enough ever enough? I'm just be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up. Pussy. Like, that's it.
You're a pussy.
Yeah, literally all the time. Or, dude, you ever feel like, just everything's going on and you want to you want to take a chill pill? I'm like, I'm going to slap you. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm like that.
So your circle's important to you.
Oh, very, very important. And it's not like, if someone says that, I'm never going to talk to them again. I'm just going to slap them around. And I will know if that's the type of person that can improve from the slap, or that's someone that's just a victim. And if they're a victim, I'll never.
That's what a real friend does, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that.
Of course. If I go out there and I have this huge booger and I'm walking into public, I want my good friend to be like, yo, you got that. I don't want him just to be like, oh, haha, like, let him fucking go,
Zain, it sounds from your story that you've been able to evolve, learn, and then when an opportunity arose, which was the door knocking, which was probably the first sales job, right? That's when you realized you were doing sales.
Yeah.
And you took that to the next level, and you just continued to grow and continue to evolve. One thing that we're always curious about is with this younger generation, do you think that they're still out there hustling like that, knocking on doors, wanting to do that? How's the workforce right now with that 20 to 25-year-old range? How's that right now?
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that thinks like, oh, like, you know, our parents worked way harder and they were times were different, right? Our parents, it's so hard to say. Our parents didn't have the internet. They didn't have a phone. Like at the end of the day, what the fuck are they going to do? Like they're either sitting at home or they're outside doing something. Like as we've gotten older and generations have gone by, there's been more resources, more technology, and more things to do. So less people just sitting at home. Like now you actually can sit at home and do something productive. Whereas back in the day, it's like, okay, if you're home, you're going to sleep, or you're leaving home, you're working, or you're doing something else, right? So I don't really look at it in a way of like, oh, our generation is lazy and these other people aren't. I just more look at it as it's the first time ever where every single person, as long as they're home, they have an opportunity. As long as you have a cellular device, you have a smartphone in front of you. It is so like mind-blowing to me that people cannot figure out how to just build a simple life or a career or make money off of that. Every human on planet Earth, as long as they have a smartphone with Wi-Fi and service, you can be successful.
But do you think the work ethic has changed within generations?
I think it's changed in a different way. Like I work super hard, right? But my great-great-grandfather worked way harder than me. He didn't work harder than me in the sense of hours put in or my mind put into it. It's just what were his choices. He couldn't hop on a Zoom call. He couldn't go do stuff. Like he had to be out in a farm, like fucking hammering things and beating things and shoveling. So technically, labor-wise, he worked way harder than me. But in terms of life, I'm always working. I'm 24/7. I'm always on it. So it's just how you look at it and what your perspective is. I believe as you get more successful, you work harder. However, hard is all made up in your mind, right? Like for me, I personally think being the owner of a restaurant is 10 times harder than being a server at the restaurant. But let's look at the different roles. What does a server have to do? Server has to go out there. They have to grab the food. They have to give it to people. They have to ask them questions. They have to be engaging. They have to be moving around plates, always watching their people. It's a pretty labor-intensive job, and you're constantly moving, and you're constantly on your feet. The owner technically doesn't have to do that. The owner can sit there, they can make deals, they can buy inventory, they can make up the menu, they can, hire a better chef, they can hire employees. But now let's look at those two roles. In theory, how many people can actually be a server? Just let's take out of 100 people. I'm not saying want to be, I'm just saying how many people are physically and mentally capable to be a server out of 100 people? 95, 97, 99. Like most people is the whole point. People can be a server. It's not the hardest thing in the world. Now, how many people could be a restaurant owner out of that 100 people? Maybe 2, maybe 1, maybe 3. Yeah. Right? The actual job day to day, it's much harder, in my opinion, to be a server labor-wise. But to be the owner of the restaurant is mentally much harder and much bigger of a challenge. But what's the difference? A lot of people can do this and a lot of people can't do this. What's the difference? This person is solving a bigger problem than this person. This person, that problem is very fillable. This person, it's a much harder problem. Owning a restaurant is a much more competitive environment and it's not easy to do and you're taking a big risk. So when people observe their life and everything that's going on and work ethic, I always tell them one thing. Forget about all the noise and forget about everything. Find a problem to solve and become really good at solving that problem. That's how you're going to be successful. That's it. Find a problem. If I find out that, there's not any good energy drinks on the market that are healthy like this and they don't exist, what do I want to do? I want to solve that problem. I want to go in there and I want to create a product that I'm obsessed about, that everyone is going to want and everyone is going to desire, right? Or if I notice that, there's a huge need for a certain type of restaurant or a certain club or a certain artist to come and sing in this city, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to solve that problem. If I think people need to own their energy, I'm going to go and solve that problem, right? So problems exist all throughout life. There's always a big supply and demand market. It's who's going to fill that void and who's going to actually go and do it. So I know it's not really a direct answer to the question. I don't think work ethic is based on age. I believe work ethic is based on personal decision. And I think there's 50-year-olds that are lazy as fuck. And I think there's 14-year-olds that are motivated as fuck. It's all based on the human being. I don't think it's based on a generation.
That is an amazing perspective. And you brought a lot of things to light because we always ask those questions to everybody to see what they think. So guys, you heard it from Zain from Better Earth. If you want generational wealth, you have to solve problems.
Love it. Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys. An awesome podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, my brother.